Once you received your order, go ahead and lay out everything in front of you. The only tools you'll need to complete the installation will be a 10mm socket wrench with extension, a 10mm wrench, and a 4 and 5mm hex wrench. You'll start by opening the factory tool bag and removing the toolkit, exposing the mounting bolts underneath. Using the 10mm socket with extension and 10mm wrench, remove the mounting bolts as shown. Next, you will need to remove the seat mounting bolts using the 10mm socket. Once removed, the tail end of your bike should look something like this. You will need to slightly lift the rear of the seat while sliding the rack into place. Once you have aligned the rack into place, you can set the seat back into its natural riding position. In the included hardware kit, you'll find washers, a pair of 60mm socket cap bolts, and a pair of black sleeves. Go ahead and slide the washers and sleeves onto the bolts prior to installation. Once your bolts look like the one pictured, you're ready to thread them in hand tight. You will repeat this process for both sides of the bike. It is important to leave the seat mounting bolts hand tight until the completion of the installation. This will allow you to swing the rack upward to prepare for the next step. Next, slide the 50mm button heads with washers into the oval circles on the top plate of the rack. Now swing the rack upwards in a vertical position and slide the provided aluminum risers and white spacers on the bolts so they look like the ones pictured. While holding the hardware in place with one hand, lower the rack into place with the other while carefully aligning and inserting them into the factory holes in the rear fender. Now that your threads are through the subframe below, slip on a washer and hand tighten the provided nuts. With your 4mm hex wrench on the button head and the 10mm socket below, you can begin to fasten them down. Be sure to keep the hex wrench in a fixed position and torque down the nut using the socket wrench. The button head provides a finished look for the rack itself but does not have the integrity like the socket side for torquing down. Once you're all tightened down, you'll notice there will only be a minimum amount of thread coming through the nylock on the nuts. This ensures rear tire clearance while maintaining the strength the hardware needs to keep your rack in place. Simply fasten down both sides of the seat mounting hardware with the 5mm hex wrench and you're good to go. If you're looking to reinstall the factory tool bag on your new rack, you can do so by using the same hardware as mentioned before. You'll just have to remove the factory spacers from inside the tool bag and align it over the oval holes in the rack prior to inserting the hardware. The underside of the tool bag is concave to fit flush against the curvature of the rear fender. Now that you will be installing it on a completely flat surface, you'll need to compress it flat while tightening it. Throw your toolkit back in and you're all done. As always, please contact us for any questions you might have. We appreciate your feedback. Thanks for watching.